There is a small magenta shift, but otherwise the colour from these filters is absolutely excellent. Today we are looking at the NiSi Swift Variable ND Mist Kit. Probably the easiest ND filter system I've ever used. But first off, thank you to NiSi for sending this across to review. Once again, as always, they have no say in my opinions in this video, they don't get to see it. I'll just be uploading it directly for you guys to see. So before we get into why I think this is such an interesting ND filter, why do you want to get variable ND or any sort of ND system for your camera setup? I know most of you know this already, but it's mainly to get that motion blur that you want when getting a cinematic image. You're not going to get that if you just keep putting the shutter speed up really high outside in daylight. That's often the big giveaway that you're using a cheap camera or you don't really have too much experience using a camera setup. You really want to stick to that 180-degree rule most of the time, and to do that, you're going to need ND filters when you're in the bright daylight. Now, the first thing I have to say when getting out these ND filters is how well made they feel. Some of them out there you buy off Amazon really do feel like they're going to fall apart, whereas these are really well made. It's quite nice to have this silver grip around the outside. It gives you something to actually hold on to, and also this little removable dial that you have so you can adjust your ND easily. You might want to take that off, you can remove it away if you find that gets in the way of what you're doing. Personally though, I really like that. It just makes it much easier to get smooth adjustments to the amount of ND that you want to apply. Also in the kit is just a plain adapter ring, so you can use your magnetic attachments without needing to use the variable ND. So it means if you just want to use the mist filter on its own, or if you want to use the ND32 on its own, then you can just by using this adapter as well. It's also worth mentioning the case that comes with this system is really nice as well. It's not just some cheap little plastic case that you often get with filters. It's a nice hard shell case where you can fit in plenty of additional filters in there, whether that's additional ones from NiSi or even other brands that maybe you've chosen in the past. So what is it that makes this ND filter so easy to use compared to the competition? Well, it's the attachment system they've used for the additional filters. I like the fact it joins around the rim. This is a really snug fit, it feels really solid, and a great way to stack filters on top of each other. Equally, it's easy to pop off and swap for a different filter. It slots on really nicely, and it's even got a little groove to make sure it slots on correctly, so you're not guessing and worrying about getting it the wrong way around. That's something I have had an issue in the past with other systems. That additional filter is actually 16 ND. So suddenly it converts that 1 to 5 stops now into a 6 to 9 stops. A really clever way of doing it. Rather than having to have two separate variable ND systems, which mean two pieces of glass, doubling everything up, suddenly you've just got this one extra piece of glass, and now you've converted the whole system into a much stronger ND. The same goes as well if you want to apply the mist filter that comes in the kit as well. It's got the same sort of setup. It's got that little ridge on the front there. You can stack it on top of the other two NDs. So if you want some extra strong ND as well as having the mist filter on, then they will all go on. However, be aware that it does end up getting quite thick. That might be an issue if you're using certain lenses where you might start seeing vignetting. So perhaps buy a size up from the kit that you're using if that's going to be a concern for you. If you're using it without the additional 32 ND, then it attaches in the same way that one does onto the base variable ND filter, and it's just very simple and actually not too thick at all. So if you're wondering what the mist filter looks like, well, this is with it on right now compared to me shooting before without it on the front of the lens. It's quite subtle. It doesn't add too much blooming to the background. It certainly doesn't overdo it despite being a quarter strength. I have to say this is a very impressive kit, and it's certainly something I think worth picking up. I love the ease of use of it, and of course the quality. That's what really matters at the end of the day when it comes to an ND filter system. You want quality glass that isn't going to ruin the image that you're working with. There is one thing you need to be aware of though, and that is the fact that this is not an IRND filter. What that means, it's not going to cut out the infrared light that's coming through and hitting the sensor. Now for a lot of cameras this isn't a problem, But it is a problem if you're shooting on something like a Blackmagic camera or some of the Reds as well, where they don't have the filter in the camera itself. It's very much a camera issue this, and not the filters themselves. When shooting RAW, this isn't a big deal to fix, but it's just something to be aware of so you don't get frustrated by the fact that it says true color on the box, and perhaps you not end up getting those results when using it with your particular camera. Other than perhaps maybe some vignetting if you do start stacking up these filters on a very wide angle lens, I really struggle to see any problems with this ND filter system. It is an awesome option to go for if you're looking for a full ND kit that is easy and quick to use and is really solid and is going to give you true colors all the time.